Hello, fellow mystery lovers. Well, today we're continuing our look at Sherlock with the final episode of Season 3, His Last Vow. So, here we go. John Watson, whose wife Mary is now visibly pregnant, finds an unkempt Sherlock Holmes living in a crack house under the influence of drugs. John attempts to force him to rehabilitate, but Sherlock insists that he was undercover for a case. Mycroft confronts Sherlock about the drug use and realizes that Sherlock is investigating Charles Augustus Magnuson, a newspaper owner who blackmails people. Sherlock has been enlisted by Lady Elizabeth Smallwood to negotiate the return of stolen letters written by Smallwood's husband. Mycroft warns Sherlock not to go after Magnuson, which Sherlock ignores. Yeah, that's not surprising. John is also surprised to discover that Sherlock is in a relationship with Mary's bridesmaid, Janine. Sherlock tells John that he is dating her because she is Magnuson's personal assistant, and uses their relationship to assist him with breaking into Magnuson's office in London. Inside, Sherlock and John find an incapacitated Janine, and Sherlock happens upon Mary holding Magnuson at gunpoint. What? Mary shoots Sherlock, who harnesses all his mental powers to stay conscious. He is taken to the hospital. At his mind palace, Sherlock fades away. At the same time, in the real world, Sherlock dies on the operating table in pre-op preparation. In the Mind Palace, Moriarty convinces Sherlock that he's letting John down by dying, which convinces the Mind Palace Sherlock to wake up and escape. At this time, in the real world, Sherlock's heart begins to beat again. The surgeons attempt to revive him by giving him oxygen. Sherlock wakes up with surgery and mouths, "Mary." Mary comes into the hospital as met by John, who says that Sherlock has survived surgery. Mary visits the dazed and severely injured Sherlock and warns him not to denounce her. John nonetheless begins to suspect something after he finds that Sherlock replaced John's chair in the Baker Street flat and left a bottle of Mary's perfume on the table next to it. Sherlock breaks out from the hospital and arranges a meeting with Mary. Using a ruse, Sherlock exposes Mary's secret life as an assassin to John, and all three return to Baker Street to talk it out. She tells him about her past, and that Magnuson has information on her that would put her in jail for the rest of her life. Sherlock deduces that she intentionally shot him in a non-lethal spot and called an ambulance. Sherlock tells John that he observes John's addiction to danger, and that John was most probably attracted to Mary because of her hidden past. Mary gives John a memory stick containing information on her, marked with the initials AGRA, telling him the contents will destroy his love for her. After not viewing the memory stick for a few months, John decides to destroy it without reading it and realizes he loves Mary unconditionally. Aww. The couple spent Christmas with the Holmes brothers at their parents' home, where Sherlock takes the opportunity to drug everyone but John so that they could steal Mycroft's laptop. Sherlock takes hesitant John to meet Magnuson in his estate, Appledore, which he believes contains Magnuson's blackmail archive. During their confrontation, Magnuson explains his purpose in putting pressure on Mary was to arrive at Mycroft via John and Sherlock. He also reveals that he was behind the kidnapping of John, as seen in the empty hearse. Sherlock offers to trade Magnuson's information on Mary for the state secrets contained in Mycroft's laptop. However, Magnuson is aware that Sherlock is setting him up in a trap. Magnuson then explains Sherlock's plan to John. Security services looking for the laptop using a GPS tracker it contains will raid Appledore, and, upon finding the laptop, will have a legal reason to search the blackmail vaults. Magnuson, with a visible joy, reveals that the plan will not work because Appledore's vaults don't physically exist, but are stored in his mind palace. By giving Magnuson the laptop, Sherlock and John are now guilty of attempting to sell government secrets and can be imprisoned for high treason, whereas Magnuson remains legally untouchable. When Mycroft and the police arrive, Sherlock coldly shoots Magnuson in the head, having realized that this is the only way to free his friends and everyone else from his power. Yay, I guess? Mycroft convinces the government to spare Sherlock a trial, and, as an alternative punishment, presses him into a highly dangerous mission in Eastern Europe. He is, however, recalled within minutes when TV screens all over Great Britain are hacked to broadcast a loop of a static image of Jim Moriarty asking, "Did you miss me?" A post-credit scene shows a very much alive Moriarty asking if the audience missed him as well. Yes, we sure did. Moriarty, we sure did. Anyway, let's look at the sources and allusions from this episode. They're actually drawn from this episode. Well, you know what I mean. The plot is primarily drawn from the original short story, The Adventure of Charles Augustus Milverton. The eponymous Milverton being a blackmailer adapted into the character of Magnuson. In both stories, Albador is the name of the antagonist's vaults, and, in both, Holmes becomes engaged to an employee of the villain to gain access. Both stories culminate in Milverton/Magnuson's death, although in the original story Milverton is killed by one of his victims. The title of His Last Vow is a play on the title of His Last Vow, the final Sherlock Holmes story chronologically. The title is not explained within the episode, but is a reference to a dialogue from the previous episode, The Sign of Three, in which Sherlock makes his last vow to always be there for John and Mary Watson. Aww. The plot of the episode is unrelated to the short story, although there are allusions present. The original story sees the detective having retired to keep bees in a Sussex cottage, and, in the episode, Janine mentions that she's planning to buy a Sussex cottage from which she will remove some beehives. In the closing dialogue of the episode, a story Mycroft told Sherlock about the East to win during their childhood is similar to a speech from the original story. Mary reveals her true identity in what Sherlock calls the empty house, an alleyway hidden behind what are apparently the fronts of two houses in Linster Gardens. In the house, Mary thinks Sherlock has tricked her by positioning a dummy of himself at the end of the alley. In The Adventure of the Empty House, a dummy is used to fool assassin Colonel Sebastian Moran in an empty house. The letters AGRA seen on the memory stick appear to be Mary Watson's actual initials. In The Sign of Four, the first original Holmes story to feature Mary Morstan, the Agra treasure is the main focal point and cause of dispute. In the same story, Bill Wiggins, a drug addict in His Last Vow, is one of the Baker Street irregulars. The opening sequence, in which John travels to a drug den to retrieve the son of a family friend and find Sherlock as well, is read from the opening of The Man with the Twisted Lip. According to Gatiss, Mycroft's line, as a colleague of mine is fond of remarking, this country sometimes needs a blunt instrument, is a reference to a comment by M describing James Bond, and is intended to suggest that the two series share the same reality. Now that'd be interesting. Anyway, let's look at the production of this episode, beginning with casting. In July 2013, it was announced that Danish actor Lars Mikkelsen would star as the main villain of the third series of Sherlock. Mikkelsen first appeared in a non-speaking cameo appearance at the end of The Empty Hearse, or Hearse, however you pronounce it. The portrayal of Magnuson was described by Stephen Moffat as, quote, terrifying. Mikkelsen was suggested for the role by producer Sir Virtue and recorded an audition video for the production team in which he urinated in his barn. Ugh. Mikkelsen was starring in a film set in East London at the time and had picked up a London accent, so he had to, quote, re-Danify his accent. Moffat and Virtue's son, Lewis Moffat, played young Sherlock Holmes in 2 scenes, and Benedict Cumberbatch's real-life parents, Timothy Carlton and Wanda Ventham, reprised the role of Sherlock's parents from The Empty Hearse. Stephen Moffat has commented that Sherlock, quote, runs on nepotism. Now on to writing. Stephen Moffat confirmed that the cliffhanger, the return of Moriarty, had been planned as far back as Series 2, when he discussed the plan for Moriarty's character with Andrew Scott. However, he joked that he was as surprised as the viewers to see Moriarty return, noting that it is impossible to fake shooting oneself in the head. Scott appeared in a short post-credit scene talking to the camera, both first for the show. Moffat has commented that viewers will have to wait, quote, years to see the resolution of the cliffhanger. Gatiss and Moffat had considered adapting the character of Charles Augustus Milverton for some time, considering him to be a, quote, brilliantly realized villain. Moffat viewed Magnuson as Sherlock's, quote, intellectual mirror and a, quote, unique baddie, and stated that he fell in love with him. The character Magnuson was originally conceived as an American retaining the name Milverton, but Moffat changed both his nationality and name when Mikkelsen was cast. He found the name Magnuson on a website of Danish names, looking for one that resembled Milverton, the name of the original character from Doyle's short story. Gatiss noted that the character is a, quote, fascinating new place to go due to its differences from Moriarty. When Mikkelsen received the script, he stated that his first impression was that it was, quote, the best script I've ever read. Contrasting Magnuson to Moriarty, Cumberbatch stated that he was, quote, so chilling because of how real he is, how normal he is, and that he is, quote, not driven by mad, chaotic Joker's energy that Moriarty has. On the introduction of young Sherlock, Moffat noted that it was the logical course to take after the introduction of Holmes' parents, saying, quote, once you've got the parents and they've got the sibling rivalry and stuff, people start to think, well, what was young Sherlock like? You just want those things. You want to see those things as part of updating it. And last but not least, filming. Director Nick Curran had previously worked with Stephen Moffat on several episodes of Doctor Who, including the 50th anniversary special. Filming for His Last Vow began on July 29, 2013. Some filming was in Cardiff and part of Leinster Gardens, where houses 23 and 24 were shown to be mere facades. Scenes set at Appledore, Magnuson's house, were filmed at Swinhay House in Gloucestershire, owned by Sir David McMurdy, boss of Rainshaw Engineering. Nice! The post-credit scene, depicting Moriarty saying, "Miss me?" to the camera, was originally longer, but was cut at Gatiss' recommendation to tease the audience. Yeah, and tease them they did. So overall, I say this is a pretty interesting episode, and well, it's a shame that Magnuson didn't really have a whole lot of impact on the season, but it was still good nonetheless. So overall, I give His Last Vow 4 Deerstalkers out of 5. Well, tune in tomorrow to take a look at The Abominable Bride. Ooh, that should be interesting. So until then, remember everyone, the game's afoot.